being a student athlete was not easy, and especially, you know, and I don't know, I don't want to jump ahead as far as like what has changed, but for me, the biggest thing that has changed is the finances. We were poor, period, right? You paid for my degree. There was no other money allocated to, you know,
Living.
yeah, like, it was very figure it out. I remember I used to buy like loaves of bread and peanut butter and jelly and leave it in my book bag so I can just make a sandwich on the way to class.
Damn.
You know what I mean? Like, it used to be wild, you know? But anyways,
Nah,
I'll let
so
you ask your questions because
no,
I'm
no,
going to go down a deep end rabbit hole.
no.
PTSD.
This is all great, and we're trying to avoid the PTSD, but you do mention a lot of things there. I went to a D1 school too, and I was on the other side of that. I have friends who ran track. I know some people on the basketball team, and I have a lot of respect for student athletes because I know when you're on the outside, you just don't know how hard they're working, right? You just don't realize how much they have to do. And I was at a mid-major, and they were still going hard. So I can only imagine how much more intense it is at a Big East school. In terms of finances and what's changed, obviously now with NIL and, Angel Reese Puffs and the Angel Reese quarter pounder meal. And granted, women's basketball in the last, I say 5 years has become much more prominent, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing in a good way. But I do want to ask, how do you think the NIL would have benefited your era and your generation, where so many women who played basketball, I think back to even Sanaa Lathan 11 basketball, right? Like she had to carry and go to like Spain, and then Omar Epps got hurt and she moved back, and it wasn't a right.
Yeah.
But she didn't have the money, right? And then it sounds like you had a very similar story. You had to play overseas. Even now, women in the WNBA, a lot of them spent half the year overseas. That's how Brittany Griner wound up getting locked up in Russia. So
Right.
how do you think NIL money would have benefited you and your generation?
Sure. I mean, it's really, it's spot on. I mean, we're talking about the Brittany Griner situation, right? Like, why do we even have to be there? Like, that's the biggest thing, right? It's because the money not moneying, right? It ain't no there's no reason, unless you absolutely want to go play for another country, that it's your only option to make ends meet. And for a lot of women, it's the only option. Like, you got to play it at WNBA, but most rookies aren't even making a basic salary when you come in. You know what I mean? And so in order to just even have like basic living expenses, you got to go overseas to try to get that extra bread. And then, whatever, we can talk about the political part of Brittany Griner situation. When you know better, you do better. But like, I wish that there was it wasn't the only option to make ends meet. And I get it. People can always make the argument where, we're not filling the stands, or, women aren't dunking. Well, all of those things are happening now. So now what's the excuse?
Yeah.
Women are dunking, and they've been dunking. The stands over in the last year, 2 years, with Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. I mean, obviously those aren't the only names, but those are pretty popular names. Like, they had the most people in these WNBA stands in the history. It's been the most watched that it's ever been. And I love that for them. It's great. Like, I think that the way the WNBA is going and the way college basketball is going is great for women, sports, period, breaking that glass ceiling and all of the things. I personally think that there needs to be reparations for former athletes who
Say that.
played
Say
in
that.
D1 sports.
Say that.
Because we paved that way, and if not reparations, like, just like some type of acknowledgement of the fact that like there was no exit plan for us.
Right.
It's like, thank you, you did 4 years, you did 5 years, I appreciate you, now best of luck.